Well, I'm going to cover two topics in my talk. The first is on SPCs, or Supplementary Protection Certificates, and then I'm also going to talk about some changes in the litigation system in Europe for litigating patents and SPCs. And the reason SPCs are interesting is that they're a way of extending patent life. So in order to compensate for pharma and biotech products that take quite a while to come through to get regulatory approval and get to market, it's recognised that that eats into the effective exclusivity period of the patent. So SPCs are a way of extending effective patent life for up to 5 years. So they're a very valuable right. And what's interesting about them is that they are created by European law, and so there have been lots of referrals to the European Court of Justice recently, a lot of those referrals coming from the UK courts, as to the interpretation of the SPC regulations. So lots of new case law and a very interesting hot topic about a valuable right. And as I said, the other part of the talk will be about the changes to the European patent litigation system, with the introduction of a unitary patent and a unified patent court in due course, which means that you should be able to litigate one stop in Europe in one court to deal with patent issues, which means that you'll have more efficient and effective litigation, but equally it'll be quite high risk because all your eggs will be in one basket potentially. So it's really important to understand how that will change and the steps that you might need to take now in looking at your patent portfolio to allow for those changes that are coming into effect. Well, from my perspective as a patent litigator, and with this interest in SPCs, I think the three cases that were handed down by the European Court of Justice in December last year about SPCs were really important, very interesting. We'll be talking about that at the conference. But I guess more generally in the sector, actually one of the really interesting developments has been the introduction of the first biosimilar therapeutic antibody into the European market. So we've seen the launch of biosimilar infliximab for the first time, with therapeutic antibodies coming through the regulatory pathway in Europe. I'm sure it'll be the first of many others to come, but it's a really interesting development in Europe, I think. Well, I think definitely keeping up to date with the changes in law, the changes in European law and the national patent laws, and always, I guess, trying to keep one step ahead of my clients' opponents. Well, the whole issue of negative and zero term SPCs has been really important. The duration of an SPC is calculated with reference to the filing date of the patent and also the date of the first regulatory approval in the European community. And so the issue of negative or zero term SPCs arises when the date of the first regulatory approval in the community is less than 5 years after the filing date of the patent. So that means that the potential extension of the patent is less than 5 years. So you get into this position of potentially having no effective SPC duration. So the importance of that is that you have to have an SPC in existence to be able to extend it, to get an extra 6-month paediatric extension if you carry out a paediatric investigation plan by testing products in paediatric trials. And that's intended to try to incentivise and reward companies that carry out such investigations by giving them this extra 6 months of exclusivity of their patent life. The national patent offices have adopted a fairly divergent approach across Europe, some awarding negative term SPCs, so you actually get minus perhaps 3 months of SPC, whereas others have just said, well, you'll have a zero SPC, so the SPC is coextensive with the patent life. But the important thing is that you have some form of SPC protection that you can then extend it with this paediatric extension. So they are important, they're very valuable, and I suspect we may see some more challenges to whether or not they are properly granted. So when I was really young, I wanted to be a nurse and a fashion designer, but perhaps more seriously when I was slightly older but younger than I am now, I was carrying out scientific research. I did a doctorate in molecular biology looking at the changes that transformed a normal cell into a tumorigenic or cancer cell, and looking at the changes in some of the genes involved and also some of the cell surface antigens making monoclonal antibodies, and I absolutely loved that. but decided not to continue in research. And so I've been very lucky to be able to combine the science that I studied with the changes and challenges in law in this sector that we see now. So I wanted to be a research scientist, but I'm a patent lawyer.